Welcome to Midweek Experiments in Faithfulness. This is a weekly facilitated spiritual practice with a Quaker flavor and an experimental ethos. My name is Kat Green, and I'm a program fellow here at Beacon Hill Friends House, which is a Quaker center for learning and action and a residential community of about 20 people who live according to Quaker values. Tonight, we have Nikki Mosgrove with the practice Discerning Divine Purpose. In this midweek, we will practice discerning one's divine calling. Is Spirit leading you on a new or different path? Learn how listening to the still small voice within can open new doors and transform your life. Now, I'm excited to introduce you to Nikki. Nikki Mosgrove is an active member of Trenton monthly meeting of the Religious Society of Friends and serves on the Philadelphia yearly meeting administrative council. Additionally, she is on the board of trustees of the Friends Foundation for Aging and the School of the Spirit Quaker Ministry. In 2019, she founded a Quaker nonprofit called Nia Ministries. Again, welcome. We're happy you've joined us. Nikki, it's all yours.
I think I Googled Maya Angelou and purpose. So she's one of my favorite poets, and this is the query I've come up with for us to have a little bit of brief worship. And it's, while I know myself as a creation of God, I am also obligated to realize and remember that everyone else and everything else are also God's creation. If we could just take a few moments to center on that before we start the workshop. Good evening, friends. I am a lot less nervous for this workshop than I was for last year's PYM keynote, so I feel a little more relaxed. Let's see, Eden, would you like to read Thomas Kelly?
I would love to read Thomas Kelly. That is a gift. The eternal inward light does not die. Light within never fades, but burns, a perpetual flame, where the wells of living water of divine revelation rise up continuously, day by day and hour by hour, steady and transfiguring.
Like I said, I just feel like in Quakerism, I have a more personal and deeper relationship with the divine. Sometimes I say God. Sometimes I say the divine, sometimes I say the light. So I don't mean to offend anyone with my word choices, or it has nothing to do with gender. I forgot to say that at the outset, but that's just my personal preference. And I just wondered if anyone else has had sort of an experience with the inward light that they'd like to share. My usual feeling, especially if I'm in worship, is to feel like this overwhelming warmth, like I'm almost on fire. Like I just feel like a presence or a hug or just an embrace when I'm experiencing what I believe to be God's presence. So Marcelle is one of my favorite people. I actually have met her in person. I use a lot of her writings and materials just to stay grounded. I was going to play the Quaker Speak video, but it was just too long. So I just spliced a few things that she had that I really liked. And it's not like lovely little sentences. You could feel her saying, well, the inner light is also called by many different names by Quakers: the inward light, the light of Christ, that of God within. It was also called the seed because it represented something very small of God planted inside. The phrase, the seed, suggests that small thing might not grow if you block it. If you block it up, if you ignore it, if you have all these distractions, which was my experience in the beginning of my ministry. Next one, Kat. So now we're going to talk about leadings. First of all, you're not crazy. You might be hearing some voices and having some feelings, and some somatic things are going on. I'm here to tell you, you're not crazy. I have a master's in counseling. I'm letting you know this is like a real spiritual experience you're feeling, and that's why you felt led to participate in this particular workshop. Sometimes we just need like the validation of knowing that we can trust ourselves, and it's okay. We're one of the few religions where you can trust yourself. You don't need to be anointed or ordained by a group or a particular person. And sometimes when you come from different traditions, you need to relearn how to just be you. So a leading might feel like a still small voice, a gut feeling. It might be fear. When I tell you I ran from Nia Ministries, I ran like it was, I don't know, it was like my greatest fear to succeed at doing this. And I'm just bringing people together to have a conversation. And I was just petrified to even get started. And then the pandemic happened. And we all slowed down for a bit. And I said, well, maybe this is what I'm being called to do. And it might repeat over and over again. And then I had someone tell me that not all leadings come from you. Sometimes a friend or a family member might have a gift of seeing gifts in others. So perhaps that initial leading came from a friend or a fellow Quaker. So that's also something to think about. It might not just be you. It might be God sending a message through someone else. So this is the part where I love being a Quaker, because no one can tell you. There is no one answer. Obviously, the discernment is the process of figuring something out. Is this really a calling? Are you being led to do this? When I was asked to consider stepping into Rising Clerk, I called like 30 people and asked them to pray for me for a month. Or if you call Tanya, she tells you, well, you already know you have to do this. God has put you in this place at this time. So, you get some people like that. I reached out to a lot of people that weren't Quakers, that were just going to hold me just because they knew who I was. And they felt that maybe it was time for somebody with my fire. So we'll see how it goes. One thing I wanted to mention is that it could be, discernment can be like a very validating experience as an individual or a group. And I know a lot of friends like to gather information and get together. I'm not against clearness committees. I just want to put that out there, but not everything needs a clearness committee. Not everything needs academic research. Sometimes it's just God calling you, and you have to be okay with that. And I know sometimes we're inside of our heads as friends, the same way sometimes we focus a lot more on activism and are afraid to talk about spirit. You skipped one. Okay. And I just listed some of the discernment practices that I've heard friends already use, and I didn't put clearness committee on purpose. But if you'd like to add that, I personally use prayer and meditation. I listened to gospel before we started this evening, and whenever I am stuck, I usually go to music. Some people might want to move and exercise and being in nature. I'm not really a nature girl, but I know that it's a really great and spiritual grounding practice for some friends. So and others might not ever even think about, like nature being communing with the divine to discern one's next step in life or ministry. Journaling. Journaling was a sticking point for me. I had to get a ministry coach to actually help me through being stuck. So I had this idea of having a ministry, and it was just kind of sitting out there in a little balloon. And whenever I wanted to write it down, I would have like a stomach ache. And it was to the point where I would have a stomach ache or a panic attack before the time to write it down. So that's how I started with the gospel music practice. It relaxed me. And then I can write things down, I can journal, and I started making content for Nia Ministries. So I hope you guys can find something to help ground you as well as discernment. Oh, and don't forget creativity for all our artists. What is ministry? It's whatever you want it to be. I can't tell you what your ministry is. Only you know what you're called to do. And these are just a few examples. Not everyone's going to travel. Some people want to stay in the area. I added caring for property and physical structures, because there are people in meetings and quarters where their gift is to actually take care of the grounds. Like, that's not something I would ever be interested in, but absolutely, there are people in my quarter, in my ministry, in my monthly meeting, that all they know is like the architectural design. They can tell you about the graveyard. They can tell you about the bones of the building, and you can't tell me that's not a ministry. That is absolutely a ministry. And we need to be affirming and validating those friends that are taking care of the structures that we worship in. You can, oh, thank you. So, as you can tell, I'm different. I think I did a training through New England Yearly Meeting about how to nurture ministry and friends, and how meetings could be more nurturing. I mean, I listened to the workshop. I thought it was very informative, but I knew that my ministry would not be under the care of Trenton Monthly Meeting, that it would be quote unquote independent. Everyone in my meeting is 100% supportive, but I felt there's a difference between supporting a ministry and being under the care of a meeting. So I'm not sure if I did. And I chose people with different personalities that would not always agree with me. And I chose them on purpose. And I told them that. I was choosing them because they think outside of the box, and they've never colored inside the lines. And I thought that they would hold me accountable. I mentioned before, I have a ministry coach that is also a Quaker that helped me. I took off today from my very stressful job, managing grants for a municipality. That's one of my self-care things. And when I did the keynote, I took the day before, the day of, and the day after. The last one might seem funny to you, but my coach told me the reason I was so dehydrated after the keynote is because I did not hydrate myself before, because spiritual work is draining. And that just never occurred to me as something that I needed to put in my ministry practice. So I was so tired. The next day, I was completely dehydrated. So I made sure I hydrated myself today. And these are just some things that I do. And can some friends name other things that they might do for self-care or support in their ministries, just as an example? I think maybe the last 18 months, this is my third mutual accountability group or a faithfulness group that I've participated in. And so far, I mean, we keep inviting, those that identify as male haven't shown up. So we've been just fine. Just going through, taking turns and going through the, if I'm sure you all are familiar with Marcel and her writings on faithfulness groups. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I don't think I would even be doing this if it weren't for the women that are in my group. My current group is Vivian Hawkins from Green Street Meeting and Lynette Davis. She's from Ujima Friends Meeting. And she actually lives with a group of nuns in a convent, and they take you if you're not Catholic. It's like the coolest thing while she finishes up at Earlham. So that's my MAG group. Tanya mentioned that I should track what I do in ministry, just to keep up with, even not necessarily just Nia Ministries, but all the committee meetings and all the Quaker stuff we get pulled into. So I have everything color coded so I can tell how many hours during the week I am spending being called to do this, and what's my trusting the call. How many people have difficulty trusting what they feel led to do? So I have this heart song that kind of helps me center, and it's what I listened to before we began tonight. It's called Love is a Miracle, and it's sung by the Magic City Music Gospel Group. And I mean, it's lovely. It talks about love. Friends love to talk about love. But my favorite part is, I'm not sure what it's called musically, but it's like the breakdown when where the real message comes out. It's like when the world says no, you say yes, and it's God saying yes. And there's a part that goes, even when I said no, you said yes. Because I'm telling you, I was kicking and screaming. I was not going to do this. Like I could have just stayed in the foundation world and played with wealthy people's money. But I felt called to do something else. And sometimes when the world says no, the answer is still yes. And even when you're saying no, eventually you might get to a yes. So, and that's all I have. You could do the next slide. That's all I have. If we could end with worship. And since I'm the money lady on the side, if any of your meetings ever want to talk about raising money, I'm the queen of the grants, by the way. That's my 9 to 5. So our
Well, Nikki, can I say something? This is
yes.
Tanya again, and I see you have Yala Vinson here. Every
Pick the name Nia Ministries. I knew I liked that one particular Kwanzaa principle. Nia means purpose, and it's, I believe, the 5th day of Kwanzaa. So that's why I named my ministry Nia, because I felt like friends needed to rediscover our purpose. And I happened upon this query from Ayanna Van Sant. So I hope we can worship around this particular query. And then when we come out, we'll hear from Kat again. And so everyone has a purpose, because God is a purposeful God.
Nikki, thank you so much for this presentation this evening. I think there was a lot of really wonderful stuff in there, but that closing query about having a purpose because God is a purposeful God, I think that's something that we'll sit with for a while. And thank you to everyone for coming tonight. It's very good to see everyone, especially some new faces. I just have a couple of requests for you, and then I'll invite you to next week's midweek. So first of all, midweek is free and open to the public, but if you're in a position to support this program, you can donate at the link I'm dropping in the chat now. This helps us keep these programs accessible to our audiences and pay our wonderful facilitators for their work. Now, additionally, we are in the process of doing some mid-year reviews, and we would love to hear from you about what is working in Beacon Hill Friends House programming and what could be improved. So we have a survey for you to fill out, which Jen is going to drop in the chat right now. Thank you, Jen. And it would be very helpful for us if you could fill this out, and it just helps us to keep our programming relevant and helpful and hear what you have to say. So thank you all so much. Finally, I'm excited to invite you to next week's midweek, Receptive to the Gathered meeting with Marcel Martin and Hillary Bergen. You can register for their midweek and look at all of our programs coming up through the end of February at the link I'm dropping in the chat now, right there. So thank you so much for coming this evening. Nikki, thank you again. And I hope everyone has a lovely evening.